Welcome back to Electronic PC, where you will find unique, one-of-a-kind builds in these wooden cases. Pretty soon, we're going to be receiving the new Cyberwood case. It's an ITX case, and it will be considered the smallest case built in a wooden box. Well, at least production-wise. Alright, so next week we'll get the new ITX case from Cyberwood, and you'll see some content on that. Look for us more on YouTube Shorts in the upcoming future. Due to the holiday schedule, I'm not going to be able to put out the content I normally have, but we're going to continue to do shorts as they're going to be a little bit easier to accomplish. So, 2023. We're going to start offering 7000 series AM5 processors, and we'll be looking forward to the 7000 series Radeon GPUs as well. We'll be pairing those together in both the new ITX case and the original Cyberwood case we've been using. In addition, look for 13th gen Intel processors and 40 series graphic cards. So now let's recap over this black Cyberwood case we did. So this build was challenging from the start. For one, I had never stained one of these cases black before, so we had some lessons to learn there. First was, we normally use a polyurethane seal on these cases, but because we had a big temperature change one night while the seal was curing, and it didn't self-level. I woke up the next day and looked at it, and it was real wavy. I could see all the streaks from the paintbrush and whatnot. So I sanded it flat and re-sealed it, and it still did not level. I tried it one more time, and not only did it not level, but it started to look like black plastic. It had more of a plastic than a wood look, and it lost all of its grain and flavor. So we scrapped that. That case actually became the Minecraft wrapped case. So anyways, we went back to the drawing board and just put a base stain down. A couple coats later, I was communicating with the customer, and basically was like, I would rather you have it finished like this than me go and put another coat of sealant on it and it turned out like the last case, right? So this customer wanted more of a gloss black look to it, and we were still able to accomplish that with a wood conditioner that one of my neighbors makes that is really rich, and there's no like silicone or plastics in it. So it turned out awesome, and the customer loved it. Then we went to building this computer, where there was unforeseeable issues there as well. So here's a parts rundown of what we did. We had an ASUS X570i, Strix ROG ITX board, Ryzen 5700X, a 32 gigs of G.skill rip jaws, 3060 Ti ASUS GPU, a terabyte SN770 Western Digital. Actually, that one ended up with an SN850 because I ran into a Black Friday sale, and the original hard drive was coming late. So the 5800X went on a Black Friday sale and was actually $10 cheaper than the 5700X I had previously purchased for this build. So I got with the customer and said, hey, would you like basically a free upgrade, and I'll reimburse the difference. And they were like, yeah, of course. Now, the 5700 and 5800X are very marginal in difference. The big difference there is the TDP is higher on the 5800X. That's your biggest difference. You're looking at like a 2% difference in performance between the two. But it's still a no-brainer with it being cheaper than the 5700X. So I went up to Best Buy and picked up that 5800X, installed everything on the board. I was using a H100i Elite Capellix Corsair AIO, where you'll find that in most of my builds. I've never had problems with them, and put everything together, and the 5800X is running hot. Hotter than I like. High 30s, 38, 39 degrees Celsius idle temperatures. I like to see mid to low 30s, and that is typical for a build like this anyways. So I run an R23 Cinebench, and I'm in the high 50s on the first pass, which is great. I'm like, you know, maybe there isn't an issue at all. But then it goes to the pass 2, and we're in the mid 80s already, 85 degrees Celsius instantly. And it slowly creeps up into the high 80s and almost hits 90 degrees. It kind of settles at 88, 89 degrees. I don't like that. That's too hot in my opinion for AM4 processor. AM5 and 13th gen Intel, different story, but we're not there right now. So I go into the BIOS and I start doing so kind of throttling back the cores with the curve optimizer, and I also noticed that the CPU is running like 1.415 volts. So I go to voltage offset on the negative, like 0.0065, somewhere around there. Bring it closer to it was like 1.395. And I did -10 across the board on the curve optimizer just to pull power across the CPU. Get back into Windows, boot up R23. It's doing the exact same thing. Same behavior with the temperatures and whatnot. And I'm like really confused at this point, because anytime I've throttled back CPU, I will see better thermal capacity with it as a result. So I go back into the BIOS and I get a little bit more aggressive on my undervolting and drop it down to like 1.250 volts. Boot it back up, same behavior. So I call the customer up and I'm like, hey man, I don't like the way this CPU is performing. I don't know if there's something wrong with this one specifically, but I've reseated the water block multiple times. The thermal paste looked good. Everything looked fine. Standoffs were still tight on the retention plate for the CPU. I was at a loss. So the Black Friday sale was still going on, and the customer said, you know, that's fine. I understand these things happen. What is the next step up? And I said, well, you can go with the 5900X. I personally have a 5900X. I like it over the 5800 and below because it has 2 CCDs on it versus 1 CCD, which is basically where all the dies for all the cores are on the chipset. The 5900 and 5950X kind of evenly distribute the dies out amongst the chip, and I think they have better thermal behavior because of that. So I couldn't get my hands on a 5800X 3D at the time. They were all sold out. I'm pretty sure at this point in time they are still somewhat difficult to get your hands on. So the 5900X was definitely the next step up that made sense at the time. So I got that chip, threw it in, everything was fine. R23 running beautiful, everything's great, right? So I continue on with my testing and stress testing and benchmarking, and I start getting blue screens of death. And I'm like, what now? Like, this build has just been special from the get-go, and here we are It's crashing constantly. And the reason code changed every single time. And I started to pick up on that later on. But first, before I did anything else, I rechecked all the compatibility for all my parts. Everything looked fine. I made sure every plug and the GPU was seated correctly. I reseated the RAM. I did everything except reseat the CPU. I wasn't really led to believe the CPU was an issue. Either way, couldn't get it to behave correctly with the blue screens. I reinstalled Windows. That didn't work. And finally, I was like, it seemed to get worse and worse also, and quicker to blue screen after a boot up. So I shut it down and swapped out RAM sticks with some G.skill Trident Z RBG 3600 CL18, and all my problems went away. So I deduced that not only did I have a bad CPU, or just maybe it was just, like the Silicon Lottery was terrible that was one of the worst CPUs I've ever had my hands on. And then I had bad RAM also. What are the odds of this? I think there's like a 0.01% chance that anybody would run into getting bad RAM and a bad CPU within a batch of parts. The point here is not everything always goes smooth, and the customer was extremely understanding and worked with me, and honestly got a better system at the end of the day with little extra cost for what it was. So anyways, that was fun, and I love the black case. I love the black stain. I look forward to doing more in the near future. I also look forward to putting out more content with the new ITX cases coming out. So I'll throw another picture up of that here for you to look at, and we'll get going on that with the YouTube Shorts. We'll see you there. And then we'll see you back on the long-term content in 2023. I want to make sure all of y'all know we at Electronic PC wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate, even if it's nothing, Happy Hanukkah, whatever the case may be. Have fun this holiday season. Take it easy. Hope y'all get some extra time off. Kick the feet up. Eat some good food, enjoy friends and family, and we'll see you next year.
Today's video is sponsored by Omni-Ray Electronics. Are you looking for a gaming computer that's not in a wooden case? Well, these guys got you covered. They focus on quality, and I really like the way they look. Check them out today. The link is in the description below.